Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Good. So, for those of you that don't know, the most important thing about Cameron Pilley is that he's married to my best friend. But he was also number 11 in the world in squash, and really talented Australian player, probably one of the tallest players on tour. And he comes from a tiny town in Australia called Yamba. So I was going to ask him, first of all, how a tiny town like that can produce, like there's actually your cousin who plays professional women's squash, Donna. How did you guys produce that talent from such a small town?
Yeah, basically my parents were mad squash players.
Oh my God. Why am I so blind?
Population was only 3,000 people, so it was a pretty small town. And I just, my parents took me down to the squash club all the time with them. And then when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my parents bought the local squash club off some friends.
Oh.
So it was basically, yeah, like we lived next door to the squash club since I was about 10 or 11 years old. So my dad coached me and Donna and some other like Australian ranked juniors and that. So we were pretty lucky in that respect that we lived right next door to the squash club too.
So it was just a natural progression that you'd play.
Yeah, like played a lot of sports like golf, cricket, surfing, soccer. It was all sort of in a pretty sort of, I would say within a 1 mile radius, you had everything.
Wow.
So that was pretty good, but I went with squash. I had some good results as a junior, so
yeah,
I just kept on with that.
What was it like? There's always a moment, I think, and what was it that we say the kind of adrenaline rush of squash, or was it the fact that you got good at it and you won, or what made that the number one priority?
I would say, I think when I was about 16, I was playing a lot of golf, cricket and squash. They were like my big three. And I had a little bit more success in squash than the others, but still picked up a couple of golf trophies and that. But I think it was, yeah, I think deep down I just love squash more. So I just went with that. Like I had some successes and, it was just so much fun traveling around to junior tournaments with friends and seeing everyone. And, it was just such a good time that I think that's what drew me towards playing squash.
Yeah. And so you started when you were 11, is that what you said?
I played my first tournament when I was 6, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I could hit a ball pretty young, and there was the under 7. So I was running around on a squash court playing tournaments when I was 6. I think I notched up my first tournament victory when I was 6.
That is insane.
Yeah, and
wow.
Then under 7s, under 9s, 11s, and then just kept going.
Wow. Well, what do you think? Don't want to go on about coronavirus too much, but what do you think it would have done if this had happened to you in your junior, when you were 13, 14? How do you think you would have coped?
I guess in my unique situation, I would have been okay because my parents owned the squash club.
Okay.
But I think I would have definitely just stayed active, and I would have just done as much as I could, like whether it's around the house and go for runs. We've got a lot of hills in Yamba where I was from, so I probably would have done a lot of hill sprints just to sort of keep fit.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes me and my brother, we always used to go out the back of the courts with a couple of squash rackets and ball and basically just crank the ball up against the brick wall and sort of make a game out of that. So I probably would have just improvised a bit.
Yeah. Speaking of your brother, Adam Stein is asking, how fast was the ball travelling when you hit your brother, and the speed of your brother's initial shot? I don't know. You might want to explain that to people if people don't know about that.
Yeah, there was a bit of pace on it. Yeah, so basically, for those who don't know, I got the world record for the fastest squash shot. Originally back in 2012, I think it was, and me and my brother were living together at the time. So, like a week after I got the record, my brother sort of said, "Oh, for a laugh, like, do you want to hit me with a squash ball as hard as you can?" and I thought he was joking, and there was no dares or bets involved. This was like 11 a.m. on a weekday, so I'm like, all right. We went down to the local squash club where we trained. He was a good junior as well, and basically I set my phone up on top of my squash bag, pressed record, and he took his shirt off and stood against the front wall, and I hit him. I started on the tee bar, took a few steps towards him to make sure I hit him, and drilled him almost as hard as I could. I think, so my record's 177 miles an hour. I reckon that was about 165.
I think she is, but I'll ask the return question. So how hard was he pushing the ball at you at the initial push?
Oh, nah. He didn't get to hit the ball at me.
Well, that's not right.
He did suggest that, but I'm like, no thanks. Nah. Right.
What did your mum say?
Mum was sort of like, oh, you boys, and Dad was more like, oh, you boys.
Well, at least you're both still alive after it. One of the Mustafa actually was asking. Mustafa is one of the coaches that work with us, but he's off. He's around doing something. I don't know what he's doing at the moment. But he was asking, how long is the longest that you've been out of action, and how did you manage to come back? I guess kind of similar to this situation as well.
I would say, I mean, between the hitting balls, I mean, this is probably up there, but probably 2000 and what year was it? 2018. I had ankle surgery on my left ankle, and I was out for. So I got the surgery. I think it was mid-June.
Right.
I think I was out for, like 3 months before I could hit a ball. So just doing a lot of rehab stuff and just trying to get my whole left leg lost so much strength. So I was just trying to just do basic weights just to try and get stronger again. And I had crutches for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then took that off and slowly got back into it. And it was just a gradual process, but. It was. I think I watched a lot of squash actually.
Oh, okay.
That sort of helped keep me sane. I was watching squash, and I think it helps if you watch squash. You sort of, you're subconsciously sort of playing the game as well. You sort of, you're seeing the different shots and the different patterns of play, and you can sometimes put yourself in that situation, imagine yourself on court as well. So, and hitting the ball was absolutely fine, but then it was just obviously the ankle wasn't strong enough at the start. But yeah.
Do you? So I've seen you on social media. Well, you do some. To be fair, Cameron, you do some questionable things on social media. You've done a 60-hour fast recently, which I can't see the point of, but anyway. But the other stuff you're doing is a lot of ball skill stuff. Like you and there's other pro players out there. Do you, like you said that you came back and it was okay hitting the ball? Like, what would you say to the people coming, the 2.5 months out at this point and being concerned that they've lost it, that they've lost their skills? No,
I don't think you'd ever lose your skills. I would say within a week or two, you're probably going to feel almost like you've got it back completely. I remember my first few hits after I came back. It obviously felt weird because you haven't played squash for so long. But I found after a week, maybe 3 or 4 hits a week. By the second week, it was sort of yeah, it actually comes back a lot quicker than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was just a matter of just grooving picking up the technique again.
Adam's crossing his fingers, I see in the one from Richard. Who was your best friend on tour?
Because I was on tour for so long, Richard, I had a few good mates. I would say early days it was someone like Stuart Boswell back in the day. There was no one from my generation in Australia that I could really travel to tournaments with. It was just sort of me. So I saw Bozza a lot, and I trained in Caversham in Reading over in England with him and Ricketts and Jensen.
And Stuart Boswell was what, number 4 in the world? What did he get to? 4 in the world.
Yep. So, yeah, we got along really well. So I'd say early days, first few years, probably Bozza. Then, yeah, for the rest, it was sort of Ryan Karskelly, Steve Coppinger, Nicky Muller, Daryl Selby, Borja Golan from Spain. Probably that sort of crew, I'd say, were the guys I hung out with the most.
So a lot of different nationalities.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, I guess you always sort of get drawn towards, your fellow countrymen, but yeah, it was sort of, it was nice to have that mixture of cultures as well.
And then when we're on tour, you practice with them and things like that, which is, I'm going to actually rob one of Adam's questions from last week with Amanda, or a couple of weeks ago. When you do practice, say maybe the day of a tournament, or you're going down to the club, what's your go-to drill? What is your, the one you love? You're like, does everything, ticks every box, thank you very much.
I would say there's two for me that tick every box. There's one which I don't know if I made it up myself or if I just taught someone, but I'm claiming it. Okay, so this is the order of the shots. So it's a set pattern, but it's just it's got everything. So it's basically boast, lob, volley drop, drive.
Say that again, I'm writing it down.
Okay, so boast.
Yeah.
And the lob is anywhere. So you can lob straight or lob cross. So boast, lob, straight volley drop, drive.
Do people get it?
Yeah, I mean, once you get it in your head, like it's really good, because you can do it slow paced as just a warm up after your boast and drive, or if you say you're allowed to volley the drives and you're allowed to volley boast, then it's actually a really not so much a pressure drill, but it's up there. It gets the heart rate going.
Yeah, and you're moving back to front court too.
Yeah,
because you're doing 2 drives.
Yeah, I'd say I like doing that one, but quite often if people don't know it, I can't be bothered explaining it. So it's just
yeah, but back to boast and drive.
With my regular training partners who know it, I do it all the time.
Nice.
And then in terms of probably a harder one, I love. I guess it's front versus back, but it's long, short. So after the serve, it has to go long, short, long, short. So you take it in terms of attacking. So you have to attack and you have to choose your times to defend and get that length. Yeah, me and Paul Cole, we actually did that a lot back when I lived in Holland.
Oh, wow.
We used to kill each other with that. It was so good.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Morgan has 2. I'm pretty sure it's not your brother, but there's our players. Well, I'm going to start with the first one. It's a double one, Morgan. Did you start with a wooden racket? How old do you think Cameron is? Morgan? And then the second one, 105. He said, and then the second one is how our players fit now as they were in Jeff Hunt's era. And Jeff Hunt, for you younger people, it was an absolute fitness machine. He is a coach. I think he's recently retired. He used to be a coach in Qatar, and we don't make you do a lot of 400s out here in California, 400 meters around a track, but he was the king of 400-meter running and sprints. Anyway.
Yeah. To answer the first question, I didn't start with a wooden racket. I think I had a double shaft aluminium racket.
Oh yeah.
I think it was an Apollo racket, and that got bent a lot. But I still remember. I don't know why I just remember this. I still remember when I could choose my first proper squash racket, and I narrowed it down to a Prince Extender, which is like the best racket you could get.
Yeah.
Or this red, weird-looking Apollo racket, and my uncle, who was a good player, he used to use this red Apollo, so I chose that. And I reckon a week later, I was so disappointed in my choice. Why didn't you just pick the best racket?
Yeah, the Prince Extender. I mean, you can't beat the Prince Extender.
I went with this red Apollo racket.
Yeah. No, let that be a lesson, people. It's a good one from Andy. Why do you match up so well against your baggy?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Just quickly answering that Jeff Hunt one.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
It's a completely different fitness. Like, you can compare, but you can't compare. Like, just so much is different. Just the technology and the equipment, for starters, like not only the rackets and the ball, but the shoes, like the way we train, the height of the tin has dropped. We went through perspex courts to glass courts, the scoring system. So it's a completely different way of training now compared to back then. But obviously, if you put Jeff into this era now, I have no doubt he would adapt and still be, probably one of the greats. He'd, it's one of those ones where he was just so good. And with the Shabaggy one, I would say, he hits the ball quite hard and he plays at a fast pace and he likes to volley and sort of, I guess, overpower people. And with that type of game, I didn't really have a problem matching up with. So, I sensed that he felt that he couldn't overpower me because I could also hit the ball hard, and I sort of, for whatever reason, I could read his game really well. If I got drawn up against him, obviously he was the world number one, so you obviously don't want to play him early rounds, but I wouldn't be annoyed too much because I knew I had a good record against him.
So you'd much prefer him over a Rami or, let's say, a Nick or something?
He's going to move rooms. Sorry.
Cameron's got two little kids. He's got a 3-year-old daughter and a newborn Leo. So I'm assuming that has something to do with that.
Yeah. I'd much rather play Muhammad rather than Marwan as well. I never beat his younger brother Marwan, and he's such a, I don't know, he's just a smart player and a street smart player. And
yeah.
My game, for him, matched up well for his game. Like I never took him to 5. I got a game off him here and there, but I'd much rather play his brother Muhammad.
Because there was less kind of trickery, and it was just a very hard pace, and you just dealt with it?
I think so, yeah. And I think he, I don't know what it was. I think Marwan plays a tighter game. I think tactically, I think Marwan is maybe a little bit better. And yeah, I'm not sure. It's one of those ones where I'm just his bogeyman. I'm just his bogeyman.
It's a pretty good one to have.
Yeah, and he wasn't afraid in telling me that, throughout our career either. Like, if we were drawn up against each other, like 3 weeks out from the tournament, he might send me a message going, "Oh my God, I'm playing you again."
When he was number 1 in the world.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if I would be telling my bogey I didn't like playing him. So I'm like, all right, mate, sweet, yeah, that's fine.
Absolutely not. Yeah, kids, Isha and Annika, I would agree with our guys as well, Adam and Andy. Don't bother telling your opponents. Don't give them anything more than they have already.
Exactly.
Maybe you said it. Is Marwan from Richard? Who did you least like to play on tour? Why would it be?
I would say, like all the best players of the modern era, obviously so tough to play. So I would say someone like Gaultier for me was always just a nightmare to play. He just, his, I would say, his physique and my physique, obviously completely opposite. The way I play and the way, everything's just the complete opposite. So he would, he's got a low center of gravity. He's a really good mover. He's good with a counter drop because he can get in there quite low and sort of take you back into those front corners. He held the tee really well for not such a tall guy. I found him, I probably found him the hardest guy to play outside of Rami. I played Rami a few times and it was weird. He might just blow you off the court for one game, but then you might get the next game like 11-5. Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm in this.
Yeah.
But then he'll smash you 3-1 and you're like, oh, maybe not. I'd say Greg, but I think Rami, everyone at their best, I think Rami was a league above everyone. Yeah. And I know asking a lot of pros, on tour and, I think might have spoken about it on our podcast maybe a year ago that if everyone was playing their best sort of in the modern era, then 99% of players said, yeah, Rami.
Oh. Yeah, it's a shame he's gone. From Andy, it seems like squash is refereed much differently now and there's fewer lets. Do you agree, and is it getting better?
Yeah, I think I know I can see what they're trying to do and how they're trying to make the game flow a little bit better and have less contact, which I think is perfect. The less contact squash has, the better. Not only to play it yourself, but just for spectators to watch, and also non-squash playing spectators, like just general sports fans. If they watch a game of squash, I think the less contact the better. Then you've got to start explaining lets and strokes and line to a ball, the clearance and all that. So once the referees can really get that right and everyone being on the same page and the players understand it, I think it'll be much better.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's filtering. So Cameron's a coach now in Connecticut, and that's filtering down into US squash and junior levels too. So we're seeing changes in junior tournaments and senior tournaments as well. We have a few minutes left of Cameron. So anyone with any more questions, Isha and Annika, sorry, I'm looking at you, get them in. But what I was going to ask, you're tall. What height are you, Cameron?
Sorry?
What height are you?
I'm 6'3".
So pretty tall for a squash player. If you're, what's the hardest thing for you to do as a tall person? I'm playing you, and I want to try and figure out you.
That's something like what Gaultier did so well against me. He, against a tall player, you typically want to twist them and turn them and get them going from, maybe hitting a high ball to then having to reach down and get a low ball. Yeah. So one of Greg's best shots, or I think probably his best shot, is like a backhand kill.
Oh, so, yeah.
He hits that low backhand kill straight across so well that, I'm reaching down to it, and it's a long way down. So I'm sort of reaching down, and if I get that back, he wants to get onto that next ball and sort of, really keep the pressure on and put that into another corner. So I'm sort of always stretching, bending, lunging, twisting, turning, and someone like Rami and Greg can just do that so well. So those are the types of players that I think tall players struggle with.
And would you fatigue more as a tall player, do you think, say if you're playing a 5-setter? Thanks, Paul.
If somebody gets those tactics right, because it's just, it's sort of heavy movements, it's sort of quick, heavy movements as well, and you're not just doing it once or twice a rally and sort of getting back into control of the rally. Like someone like Greg will just continuously put that pressure on the whole rally. So it feels like you don't really get a breather.
Yeah.
Which, it's, there's been times, so I think I had 3 wins over him in my career. So there was times where, I could sort of, I guess, hold him at bay and just sort of put my game onto him a little bit more. But for my 3 victories over him, I think he must have beat me about 17 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got the 3 victories. That's pretty good. One in for Paul. Thank you, Paul. What is your favourite shot to play?
I love a cross-court nick if it's there. I love, if I had to say specifically, it might be either a forehand cross-court nick from mid-court or sort of mid to 3/4 court on the forehand, just caning a straight kill into the neck.
Yeah.
I'd say those 2. You obviously don't get to play it a lot, but every now and then, if the time's there to play it and it's sort of set up and you're in the right position to hit the shot, then if you just commit to it and hit it,
go for it.
Feels good when you roll it out.
I know, it's the best. It's the best. So what? Just briefly, what now? What do you? So you're coaching and you are trying to survive lockdown.
Yep, that's exactly right. So me and my wife Lena and our 2 kids now, we moved to Greenwich, Connecticut in August last year. So to take up a full-time coaching position at the Appawamas Club over here. So I'm the director of junior squash at the club, and basically, so from August through to when the lockdown started, it's just I was just coaching full-time. Still trying to play the odd tournament, but I'm finished with that now. And so since lockdown, we've just been trying to keep busy. Offering some Zoom workouts for the members. We're actually at the courts now. We're cleaning the side walls and the front wall of our 5 singles courts, and we just had all 5 singles courts sanded last week.
So when just on that, when do you guys think you'll be open? Do you have any? What's it like on the East Coast?
So like Westchester County, where we are, it was one of the worst hit.
Oh.
There's a lot of country clubs in this area, so there's a lot of restrictions put in place for the whole club. So golf went back a couple of weeks ago. Tennis started up with restrictions. What's today? Monday. So like 4 days ago. Squash. So May 15, we're going to hear more from the New York governor. So Appawamas,
bit like her.
New York State. So Governor Cuomo, he'll, I guess, give his new restrictions or lift a few restrictions on the 15th, and then we can sort of go from there.
Similar to here, I guess. So don't worry, everyone is in the same boat and nobody's getting back on court a lot quicker than anyone else, it appears. We'll leave you go because I know it's probably putting your kids to bedtime, and I don't want your wife to do a lot on her own. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Cameron. Really appreciate it. We miss you out here because you've a good run at the Net Suite, and we always enjoyed watching you play. It's a shame you won't be playing it again.
Thanks for having me on, and no problem. I'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you, and thanks everyone for